That's not a comic book. Now that's a comic book.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Comic Reviews. I've got a pretty good sized stack today, but no trade. Just didn't get a chance to read anything over the weekend. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started with the last thing I read, as always, which is DC Comics Bombshells number 12. And to skip right to the end, the story ends. It's a really, really good ending. And then it goes, the end of DC Comics Bombshells Year 1. So I really like that. I really like that they've planned out their stories for a year. That's pretty clever. Again, I'm not a huge fan of really long story arcs that go on and on and on. Like, that could be really enjoyable to read in trade, but when you're doing monthly, it does get kind of annoying that nothing feels like it's ever really ending. And the next year of comics for this book, assuming it makes it another year, probably, unfortunately, will be continuing. Just a really long story. That's not a bad thing. I just don't like it. I like just really short one and done stories. Those things really work for me. But how is this on its own? Well, it's a really great story. All the elements that I didn't think would be tied together very well come together very well. Admittedly, not every single thing is mentioned or is involved. You don't have the Batgirls of Gotham involved with this at all. Batgirl is still involved. Kathy Kane's still involved. But the Batgirls of Gotham don't show up in this. Harley Quinn gets a quick passing mention in this story. They just talk about working with Dr. Quinzel. That's it. So yeah, not every single element. Sorry, I'm trying not to sneeze. It's allergy season. I know it's disgusting. But you're going to have to deal with that sound quite a lot. Anyway, so Harley Quinn gets like a brief mention, but not every single character that they've introduced comes together in here. So I'm okay with that. Admittedly, there are two members on this team who we saw like very briefly in a couple issues, but never really got their own story. I would have preferred for them to get, individual issues, so we could get more information on Barda and this doctor lady whose name keeps escaping me. I would have liked for them to get, their own issues, or Amanda Waller to get her own issue. She's kind of like the Nick Fury of all this. I really would have preferred that to what we got, but ultimately, I think it still worked. They're obviously setting them up to be dealt with later on. That's fine. The Tenebars make their big strike. This is the Battle of London Part 2, and that's all really well done. But really, what makes this work is there are a lot of splash pages too. But really, what makes this all work is the ending with Stargirl. So they're working on trying to defeat the Tenebar, and spoilers by the way, but they're working on trying to defeat the Tenebar, and they realize that the only way to do it is to sacrifice a life in order to defeat it. And they're all trying to decide who will do it, and Supergirl volunteers, and as she's about to fly away and go do it, Stargirl won't let her. She makes it rain so that her staff can be powered by the starlight. And she just goes for this, last blaze of glory, no one can stop me what I'm about to do thing. And she is able to defeat the villain. And, she has this fantastic internal monologue as it goes on, and that's really great. And then there's just this really tragic scene with Supergirl feeling the loss of her sister afterward that I really liked. And a really beautiful scene at the end where we're memorializing Stargirl. I thought that was really, really well done. The art, just all the emotion is really captured by the art fantastically. They do a great job of showing off all of that stuff. Absolutely fantastic book. I really do love this thing. It's so damn well done. You see the cover, but DC Bombshells is okay, it's a clever, fun idea for art. but it's a little self-serving when you first hear about it. It's like it's a little sexist, I guess you could call it. It seems like it's going to be that way, but then the story that this delivers is just it so perfectly captures just a nostalgic era of Golden Age comics, and it modernizes everything in a really brilliant way. And while there are things here and there that I don't care for, just on a personal taste level, making Edward Nygma a servant for the Nazis, evil Nazi spirit thing. But overall, just absolutely fantastic book. Cannot get enough of this. Let's go ahead and move on to Darth Vader, number 20. New story arc starting up here that's kind of touching on and summarizing a lot of the other stuff that's been going on. And that's cool. It's just really well handled, and we get the setup for what Vader's going to be doing next, which is basically to hunt down the cyborg guy that was the one who I guess set up everything for Vader, like all his machinery and stuff. That's really interesting. And then the 000 and BT are sent off to go find Dr. Aphra. And then we get a cool little, side story with BT and 000 that was quite fun. And it worked really well. BT's hilarious. And it was just cool, the little side story of, how 000 got his arms back or whatever, and that was neat. Yeah, just cool stuff. The Emperor and Darth Vader's scene in this is probably my favorite thing, where the Emperor explains, the history of the Sith, how he got to where he is, and what he's gonna be, or why he sent Silo against Darth Vader, why he set him up, and this is where we really start to see that Darth Vader gets it. And let me try to explain that. So in the prequels, my biggest problem with it all, my favorite thing about him is Sidious's plan. I think Sidious is easily the best thing about the prequels. Like, everything else in those movies is problematic at best. His plan just works. It makes a lot of sense. It's admittedly really complicated. He's pulling a million strings at once, but it's plausible enough considering that the Sith have been working to get to where he is for 1,000 years. My biggest problem with how he indoctrinates Anakin and or Darth Vader, depending on how you want to call it, is it sets up, like, it's a perfectly sympathetic thing for Anakin going to the dark side to save someone he loved. But it sets up this really weird thing where the Emperor then has to keep lying to Anakin potentially for the rest of their career. And that creates really weird problems when Darth Vader is facing off against Luke Skywalker, and, he knows that Luke is his son and all that stuff. It's this huge logical inconsistency, and it should mean that Darth Vader has no loyalty to the Emperor, to the point where the Emperor shouldn't trust him to stop Luke from killing him in Return of the Jedi. Once again, the greatest scene in all of Star Wars. So that's always been like a really weird thing about the prequels. And in this, it just fixed it. And I'm so happy for that. So Palpatine gives him this whole thing about why he set Silo up to do all this stuff against, or why he pitted Silo against Vader and yada yada yada. And he asks Vader, "Do you understand?" And Vader says, "I do. If any of Silo's toys had succeeded, you would be making this speech to them." And Vader and Palpatine just look at each other in, like, dead silence. And Vader goes, "That does not matter. The dark side is strength. I am that strength. You are Vader. Silo has run." find him. He must be destroyed. As you wish, Master. And just leaves. I love it. He finally gets it. It's about power. It's about control. He still has shit to learn from Palpatine if he wants to now be ruler of the galaxy. He's still... he's never going to get Padme back. He knows that now. Vader goes through such a huge character shift between Episode 4 and Episode 5. And this is really laying a lot of the foundation for where that comes from. Where that bitterness, that raging... Vader really is on a rampage in Episode 5. And it is fantastic to see how well integrated that story is here. You really do get the sense, and this makes it work, that Vader had resigned himself to being a tool of the Empire, to being something for the Emperor to control and use as needed for peace. But once you make a device to destroy planets, once you realize that the Emperor lied to you and you have a son just running around the galaxy, it makes a lot of sense that Vader would start to get really bitter and really cold about all that. And so that's when he really starts to do the proper Sith thing, which is plot to overthrow his master. And that's what has worked so damn well about this book. Honestly, just give me more Vader and Palpatine because I love it so much. Their whole dynamic is just fantastic. I should mention this. I did a review with Joel Davis on his channel on the Darth Plagueis book, which I had mixed feelings about. But he told, and so I'll leave a link to that in the description. But he told me about, I think it's called Lords of the Sith, if I'm remembering the title correctly, which is like a Star Wars novel with Palpatine and Vader just stuck on a planet together. And while that sounds like a brilliant premise for a comedic sketch, Darth Vader and the Emperor, stuck on a backwater planet, must work together and separate their differences. It also does sound really just fascinating for that Palpatine and Vader dynamic, because we have so little in widespread media of them just together. In the original movies, Vader just kind of seems really subservient to Palpatine up until the moment that he decides to kill him, with his moment of redemption and stuff. So I'm really curious about that one, and I may end up either reading or listening to that as well. We'll see. But I really like their dynamic, their relationship. Then we have another tense scene between Vader and Tanath. There's some really interesting work with panels in this. Like it happened with the Vader and Palpatine scene, where Palpatine gives his whole speech, yada yada, and Vader says he does understand, and then he has that line I talked about where it's like it'd be one of them standing there, and then it's just him and Palpatine just looking at each other for a dialogueless panel. And then the next scene is Vader talking. And that's reflected here, where we have Vader and Tanoth with a kind of standoff. Vader's got the lightsaber to him, and Tanoth says to him, "Patience, Lord Vader, patience, all in good time," about what he wants to know. And then we just have another blank, dialogueless panel that I find really... I just find the panel layout like that really fascinating. I don't think they change anything. Yeah, they just copy and pasted the panel but removed the dialogue. But just that just works. It's just really, really tense. Oh man, this shit's so good. And then Vader pulls the lightsaber blade and is like, "Say your piece, make it quick," and yada yada yada. And Tanoth goes through his whole thing, and he tells Vader where to go find Dr. Aphra. And it's been a pleasure working with you, Anakin. She is on the cosmantic steps. and Vader kills him. And then sends BT and 000 after him. So it's a really tightly done book. Kieran Gillen, is the writer on these. And I just love this work. I'm going to have to go find more of their stuff. I say they because I don't know what their pronouns are. Kidding. I don't know if it's man or woman, so. Technically speaking, I do not know what their pronouns are. Oh, I blew open Bombshells. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to Black Panther number 2. I had some issues with the first issue. I still have some issues with this one, but I'm still curious to see how it goes. I don't know. I feel like if you're going to start a series, you should just do a single self-contained story for the first issue. Again, I know it's written for long form. Everybody writes for trade or omnibuy nowadays. But is it that much to ask when, like, I see this book sitting on the shelf and I don't feel like being just inundated with tons of shit about what's going on in your book or in current comics? I have no idea what the current state of Black Panther was before this book started. It did its best to sum it up in the catch-up page, but not enough. And there's some interesting writing with T'Challa. He's kind of paranoid about everybody, which is fascinating. Again, it's the social dynamics. Particularly in a time where we're dealing with so much outrage over institutionalized racism and stuff. It would be nice to see that or institutionalized problems, including racism and brutality and stuff. It would be great to not have to see that in a fantasy world of, awesome proportions of, a non-conquered black state. But it's realistic writing, for comics. It's realistic, believable setup and stuff, but just, I don't know, Black Panther kind of has the whole weight of the world on his shoulders, and I just don't know how to feel about it. Like, there's this interesting scene where he defeats these henchmen, basically, that were like guarding some people and guarding the mystic mind warper who's been fiddling with his country. And so he takes out these henchmen and he tells the people around them, "These men are responsible for crimes against your country. They will be brought to justice. Your king will provide for you." And the children are afraid of him, and they guard to a woman, and the woman says, "These men were providing for us." Like, I get what he's trying to do, and it's certainly realistic, and he's certainly allowed to do this kind of stuff. Maybe it's just not for me. Maybe this just isn't what I like in Black Panther. Yeah. We shall see as it goes on. I'll give it a while. I'm not going to give a set number of issues, but I'll give it a couple. Let's go ahead and move on to Batman, number 52. Now, I know what you're expecting. You're expecting me to go like this, but you know what? It only took 52 issues of Batman to get a good Batman story in the new 52. Yeah, I love it. It's a standalone issue. That's perfect. It's got characters I know and easily recognize. That's great. It's got it just works, man. It's just so much better. So this all revolves around Leslie Tompkins trying to help young Bruce Wayne, get over the death of his parents. And so she gives him a book, like a diary, a journal or whatever, called How to Move On. That's going to help him deal with and move on from his parents' death. And so he's filling it with all these crazy steps. And it's like a list. And number 1 is disappear. Keep reading here. Just flipping. Number 7 is feel nothing. And no, I'm not skipping numbers. They are skipping them. Number 21 is let go of everything. Number 33 is make them feel what I feel. We're almost at the end. And then number 52 is remember that your parents will always be proud of you. And Alfred put that one in there. I really like that. So it just works. It's just Batman taking down a guy who's a criminal, and it's all related to the diary, and it just really functions. And we get little clips of Bruce Wayne, doing his training across the world, and stuff like that really works. It just looks cool. He's learning stealth in Japan, in Japanese mountains. He's learning skydiving in Yugoslavia, or halo diving more properly. He's learning pain tolerance in Canada by just standing under a waterfall in the middle of ice cold water, and that's the notes, the things on his list are well paralleled with those flashbacks, because number 7, feel nothing, the scene in Alberta, Canada, is one panel of Bruce Wayne standing underneath the waterfall, panel of someone say to him, why are you doing this? You do not have the will. You will freeze in minutes. And then panel Bruce saying, no, I won't. And then we get some other stuff, yada yada, with this guy that stole something. And then it says, feel nothing. So I really like that. And these are all really well paralleled, the flashbacks they choose. The Yugoslavia thing. This is 700 feet higher than they allow people to jump. You won't survive, particularly with that glider and not a proper parachute. Watch me. And he jumps out the plane, and it's like, let go of everything. So that just really works. Make them feel what I feel as he kicks the bad guy in the face, kind of thing. So yeah, this is just really the best single issue of Batman in this entire book's run. And I'm not just saying that as a dig against Scott Snyder. That just feels more like Batman than anything he wrote. And so that was pleasant. Goes out on a good note. I'm really, really happy. Thank you. Tinian the Fourth. Game of Thrones name. Thank you, Game of Thrones character, for giving me a good Batman book in the new 52. By Batman book, I mean issue of Batman. There was some good stuff here and there. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the final thing that we're talking about today. Action Comics number 52, The Final Days of Superman. And once again, here's a story. I have no idea what the hell's going on. It's actually pretty well written for having no idea what the hell's going on. I feel really bad if someone picks up this book and this is their first comic, because they're not going to know what's going on. But it's got a lot of awesome, weird comic book stuff going on in it. There are like multiple Supermen or something, some kind of bullshit, Wonder Woman and Batman are involved. Batman's jet seems exceptionally slow for Batman speeds. Maybe that's just me. Usually he's got a jet that's super quick or whatever, but I guess not. Like they're flying over the Pacific and he says, Gotham's our next stop. At this speed, figure 2 hours max to landing. It seems like an exceptionally long time for Batman technology, but whatever. They're over the, like, I know that's probably lightning fast from, West Coast to wherever the hell Gotham is, usually East Coast-ish city, but still, Batman is Batman, and his plane should go faster. So there's some interesting, like, it's a well-written issue. I've read Tomasi's stuff before, and I think he's alright. It's just, I don't know what the fuck is going on. So, yeah. It's kind of a weird note to leave comic reviews on this week, but yeah, I don't know what to really say about it. It's well-written stuff that I do not understand. Superman is dying for some reason. There are multiple Supermen for some reason. Batman has a really slow plane for some reason. I don't know. I can't tell you if it's good or bad. It's well written. It's engaging. It's interesting. But I don't want to pick up the rest of the books because it's not going to matter in a week, month, whatever. Yeah. Sorry. Don't mean to be rude. That's it. That's it for this week's episode of Comic Reviews. I hope you enjoyed. I hope I don't come off as too harsh or dickish. I don't know what to tell you. Overall, let's see here. Good. Good. So we had a pretty good week. It just ended on a weird note. I should be back next week with Green Lantern Rebirth. Hopefully all goes well with that. Alright everyone, thank you very much for watching.